Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Switch Statement Podcast. It's a podcast for investigations into miscellaneous tech topics.
This is episode 21 of Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson. We'd love to hear from you. Send your comments and feedback to team@thkp.co.
Hey, John. What's going on?
Hello, Matt. Everything's going very well. How are you doing?
I do always hate it when I say, hey, John, what's going on? Because it sounds like a little bit too kind of sing-songy, too like rhymey.
Well, I just remember when my cousin, we were meeting my cousin, and he was like, what's up with your intro? And we were like, that's just who we are.
To this day, I still actually don't know what he meant, but I do. Yeah. It's funny because I don't know what he meant, but it still kind of like always sits and makes me self-conscious in the back of my mind.
Every night when I'm in bed, I think I'm about talking.
Yeah.
Well, we are who we are, like Popeye.
But maybe if we had some AI, like if we had some AI for our human foibles, we would be able to get past that.
Yeah, replacing me with AI probably would be a good thing. I know a lot of people are worried about themselves being replaced by AI, but I'm an imperfect creature, and so yeah, throwing some AI in there. But the problem is you need some AI focused on safety. And this is what Elon was worried about. There was this whole DeepMind versus OpenAI thing. DeepMind is Google's AI offering, which is today mostly known as Gemini. But Musk, at this time, which was around 2022, he was really concerned about AI safety, which I put haha in my notes just because of how it feels like XAI or Grok or whatever Musk's AI is called is like the least safe AI. Like it's the one producing, CSAM material and I don't know, just being ultra non-woke or whatever the hell. Mecha Hitler, etc.
It is funny because it seems like there keeps on being these like, no, we have to really make AI safe. And it's like, because this is, we talked about this a while ago. This is like 10 years running where I guess Elon wanted to recruit Demis, before Larry Page got him. And then he created OpenAI, or like he worked with Sam Altman to create AI just for these very concerns. And then it's funny because then OpenAI got like calved off into Anthropic because like Dario Amodei was like, wait, this isn't safe either.
Yeah. The AI Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it really is. But I don't think there was any pretense about XAI just being a power grab for Elon, where he's like, wait a minute, I'm not controlling OpenAI enough, so like I need to make my own. I don't think the motivation was really for safety, although I don't know, maybe it was.
Well, it sounds like he sort of came to the conclusion that if he wasn't playing the game, he was going to lose. And so I think you're right. I think he sort of relented on this whole safety thing. He did have this like, he sort of says towards the end that XAI should seek truth above all. Mm-hmm. And so he still has this seemingly altruistic, humanistic sort of bent to his AI. But this is the problem with this AI stuff is there's so much potential money to be earned that I think none of these rich assholes actually care. I think they're like, how do we squeeze as much money out of this as possible? And, there's some poor guy in the boardroom meeting like, what about AI safety? And, they're just like, shut the fuck up. Get out of here. Like, let's make money. And I can't not believe that that's what's happening because, when it comes down to it, these people are in direct competition with each other. And focusing on safety is a potential way to lose that competition because you're sapping resources from, quality and just making your
it's a competitive risk because it's like, well, I'm not spending all of my cycles making this thing as best as it possibly can be.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I necessarily disagree with your characterization of the people who are making AI or who are at the helm, But I've talked to other people and I'm like, I don't think no one's in control in this situation. You're just in this like game theory. Everyone has to sprint as fast as possible at this point, because if you don't, you're staring down the barrel of like, oh yeah, hey, we spent like billions and billions of dollars and we just for naught, essentially. So like their hands are basically tied. They're like, okay, well, there's one world where we keep on sprinting as fast as we can, and then eventually we make our money back. And there's another world where we take a beat and then we just die and we wasted all of that money and like everyone's going to kill us.
No, I think
or like our investors.
I think you're absolutely right. Like, and I feel like this is borne out by the time before GPT 3.5. Sundar thought Google was way ahead of everyone else. Mm-hmm. And the way Google was pursuing AI was ultra safe. They had products. Google had products that were very similar to GPT 3.5, but they weren't launching them because they were worried. Mm-hmm. You know, they were like, oh, it's very easy to get this product to say racist things, or it's very easy to get this product to like, you know, renounce all religions or whatever, you know, whatever dumb thing the thing was doing. And so Google held that at bay, but it was because they thought they had such a lead on the competition that they could like take their time with these problems. So I'm not trying to say that, you know, the leadership is not, or they're just these like horrible money grubbing people. But I think what you're saying is more, you know, salient here, where it's like the leadership feels like if they're not just constantly rushing towards the end zone, that they're going to fumble and, you know, lose the game. And it's almost like that's always in the back of their mind. And they're like, oh, we can't focus on safety because, but anyway, it's a sad reality. You know, AI will exceed human intelligence, as Musk predicted in his crazy talk with Sivan Zilis. And as far as I can tell, it's not seeking truth above all.
No, it doesn't it seems to be like there have been very clear and public ways in which it's overfitting, like hilariously overfitting to just be whatever Elon's worldview is. There's a hilarious quote where he talks about, you know, he's trying to juggle his billion priorities, and he says, with the AI coming, I'm sort of wondering whether it's worth spending that much time thinking about Twitter. Sure, I could probably make it the biggest financial institution in the world, but I only have so many brain cycles and hours in the day. I mean, it's not like I need to be richer or something.
Wow.
And like, there's just so much in that statement, and it's like just this hubris and like, and also like, yeah, and I don't know, maybe if Elon had been spending, you know, more of his brain cycles on Twitter, it would be succeeding more fantastically. But it seems like it's just kind of languishing these days. So
yeah, and it's certainly not, it's not remotely a large financial institution. I mean, that was a hilarious viewpoint. Very Elon Musk.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess he's just joined in the sprint and making dubiously legal images of users on his website.
Yeah. Every year, there's more referees and fewer doers. So maybe that was a quote for.
Is that a quote from the book?
Yeah.
Wow, that's funny.
From the next chapter, I like that because it's funny, and to me, this quote is important to this book because it sums up sort of a feeling that I had a lot in this book, which Musk has this, he's like a shark. He's constantly moving and he's constantly doing things and constantly attacking. And that's just his modus operandi, where he wants to be doing things, not verifying things, not checking stuff. You know, he's not like a measure twice, cut once person. He's like, just fucking cut it and let's get more wood if it breaks. And to me, I like agree with that mentality so much. And I see so much of the opposite of that mentality, especially in my career, where it's like people just take so long to make decisions, or there's these huge rooms with all these people, you know, who can say no to something. And, you know, they're all endlessly debating every detail of something, and I'm just sitting there like, let's just build it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And so part of me does strongly agree with Elon, but I just think there's this line that for me, he goes past like so often.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, yeah, it's this classic thing where it's like I like a lot of his personality, and it's clear that he's accomplished these amazing things, but it's also like at what cost? And he's burned all these bridges and sort of alienated all these people in his life, and now he's like kind of a pariah in American society to half the country at least. If anything, he's a pariah to everyone because he sort of he fumbled the ball with what Trump wanted him to do with Doge. But in any case, it's just like, yes, I like this mentality of moving forward and just doing things, but you have to draw the line somewhere. And I feel like he drew the line in the wrong spot.
It's funny because I feel like you can, with AI, this is definitely changing, and you can either look at it in like one of two ways. Like there's less doing because the AI is doing the doing, so to speak. And like basically you're only doing refereeing. You're like refereeing what the AI is doing.
Yeah.
But I actually think the conception or like the viewpoint that is closer to the truth is the one where you're like, well, actually it's like, well, there's less of these arbitrary human decision makers in the loop who can just bicker, and then you're just gonna move forward because the AI is like, they're agreeable, like they're gonna come to a consensus about something in a way that humans will just not. And maybe it's like not a very good conclusion, but like they're gonna make a decision and move forward with it. And in a way, having that be the default, I think is like, it's the right move.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I have noticed already that there's far less sort of going back and forth on a code review. Everyone knows that the code was written by some agent harness, and so everyone sort of trusts it. I don't know. Like, I remember these times in my career where you'd be trying to submit a change list, and you'd literally go back and forth on some asinine detail, like, oh, you named this thing like factory, but it should be called a flywheel or something. And
provider,
it's like, yeah, provider, that's a better example. But in any case, it's just this, it's the type of thing where I used to be so infuriated by this, like what I viewed as like utterly ridiculous bike shedding. And that has kind of gone away. And I appreciate that aspect of it.
I am not proud to admit that I had code reviews where I literally was like, oh, like you can wrap this on the next line. Like, oh, like I think you could probably fit that. I was making like line wrapping comments. Like literally I was like,
everyone did it like, to some extent. Like it was just the way, like I even remember I had a manager where, he used to send code. He was one of those cool managers that also coded. And I remember he sent me like 2 CLs in one day, and I literally put no comments on either CL because I was like, this looks good. Like there was a couple things where I maybe could have said like, well, this is like somewhat weird, but I put no comments. And at the end of the day, he came and talked to me, and he was like, hey, like I noticed you didn't put any comments on my CLs. Like, are you checking that thoroughly enough? And I was like, and I like this guy. I don't want to like denigrate him at all, but I basically like walked him through his own 2 CLs and talked about the parts where I thought about commenting but didn't because I felt it was like a stylistic difference rather than like a meaningful, functional difference. And towards the end, he was kind of like, oh. But it made me realize like that's just the culture at certain places. Like if you're reviewing code, you have to leave at least one comment. And that's just kind of a cultural thing. And people feel weird if they're not leaving a comment, like they're not being thorough enough. And it's like, no, leaving a comment should be for the case where the code is actually deficient in some way. Like you shouldn't just leave comments for like stylist, or at least this was my, this has always been my philosophy. And if anything, it's nice. I'm actually liking this new era. Like my team barely reviews each other's CLs. We're just like YOLOing all this like agent written code. And I don't know.
I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, but it's also kind of like freeing in a way.
Yeah.
But in any case,
I think that's fair. And it's funny because I think I was that person who was like a little bit too sticklerish about PRs or like CLs.
I think there's a very reasonable debate on the other side for what it's worth. I think like, you could argue if every line of code that gets into the repo is this utterly pristine Joule, then that's better than my approach where like, somewhat janky stuff would get in every now and again. So there's like a very reasonable debate to be had on both sides of this, I think. But I've just always been very heavily on the one side. I know that Musk, this is the Starship launch, so this is a huge deal for Musk. The Starship is his like Mars colonizer thing. It's like the most powerful rocket ever devised by humanity. Or I'm not sure if that's true, actually. I'm just saying that. But, it's his most powerful rocket from SpaceX.
Right.
And this is the day. I mean, he's going to launch this thing. And
I guess there is a little more context. Like he's commenting on civilization level decline, basically, where it's like, we stop being willing to take risks because we've succeeded for too long, and like we're just afraid of like messing things up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad you called that out because I vaguely remember that, and it's so true. It's like I was just talking with Lizzie, my wife, yesterday actually, where the moon was like super visible in the sky, and I was like, we went there, like we literally landed on the moon and walked around. And dude, I don't know. It's the type of thing where it's like we just can't even do that anymore. Like we're just this pathetic sort of shade of our former self, or at least the United States seems to be.
There's nothing that I'm more kind of sad about, like from a historical perspective than, I mean, this is like there's a lot of things like slavery and stuff like that I should be more sad about, but I'm walking that back a little bit, but it really just makes me very sad that like we had this technological capability and we just like allowed it to decay. We just did not. It's like, why would we not try to capitalize on that and like continue? Like there are some crazy estimates where it's like every dollar we put into the like landing on the moon, it was paid back like tenfold because of the technological achievements that
lasers
that we created. Yeah.
I'm sure computers, some sort of computing advancements. Yeah, no, I am so with you. Like it depresses me that it's almost like I'm a big believer in appetite. Like I've been on teams where you can just sense this like hunger to like do something. Yeah. Like I felt this in Math Chops where it was like we wanted to put that product out there and we wanted it to work and be really good for tutors and students. Mm-hmm. And I think a big part of why we were able to achieve it was that hunger. Like we just really wanted it day after day after day, and we had an appetite for it. But I've been on other teams where it's clear that people are just, they're just biding their time until the next project, and they don't really care that much and whatever. And it's like those teams fail. Like maybe sometimes they succeed just because you can slowly chip away at a problem and whatever, assign a ton of engineers to tasks, and it just slowly gets done. But from my experience, it's like you need that hunger, you need that appetite. And to me, the United States, especially with space exploration, feels like it has lost that.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny. I mean, this doesn't dovetail too closely with what you just said, and I'll get back to that. But like, I was at a career day talking about like being a software engineer, and like someone asked, why did I leave Google and start Math Chops? And I was like, listen, like you're at a big company, like you're just like this teeny tiny little part of like this enormous machine. And like, yeah, you can learn a lot, but like, I feel like you get a lot of that where it's like, no one really cares that much and no one's that passionate. And I'm sure that that's not true of all teams at Google, but I think for a lot of teams, it's a lot of people who are kind of just showing up. They're trying to get their work done, but they're not like actively passionate about what they're working on. And I don't know, like starting your own company is the best way to like get that to the maximum, like turn up to 11.
Yeah. So. And it's intoxicating. I mean, that's easily one of the funnest periods of my
dangerous.
Career. It is dangerous. Yeah, it's too fun. It's like you want to do it over and over again.
Because now you've tasted the forbidden fruit, and you're like, you go back to the like 9 to 5, and you're like, oh my god, this could be so much better.
Yeah, you're just always chasing that dragon. It's kind of awesome. So getting back to the book, I guess, and I'm sort of glad we had a brief discussion before this because this was like building tension. The rocket blows up. So the book kind of ends on a, somewhat sad note for Elon. The rocket explodes for a couple reasons. So they had a concrete pad, which obviously if you have a launch pad, it's generally a big concrete pad. But they did not have these troughs, which NASA, if this had been a NASA project, they would have had these troughs because they're very careful about everything. But what basically happened is because there weren't these troughs for the rocket explosion to sort of escape out of, the explosion just hit this pad and the concrete broke and flew up into one of the engines. And there's like 40 engines or something. A few of these engines were hit and damaged by the shrapnel. And so, Elon once again was sort of hoisted by his own petard. Like he wasn't careful enough. His whole rule of just doing things or sort of like ignoring the common wisdom failed in this case, because the common wisdom would have definitely been to build those trenches into the launch pad. And so I thought it was kind of poignant that the book chose to end on this, sort of a failure. But then again, it also discussed Elon's reaction afterwards. Like he was not
right.
He sort of viewed it as a step. It was like a step towards victory. And it was kind of this interesting, way to end the book, because you could totally view it as a failure, but you also do view it as this, like, we're just on a path and we'll get there eventually. And it was really interesting.
The book definitely characterizes this as a success, it feels like. I mean, they say that, like, from the outside, it might look like a failure. But, like, I don't know. I think Walter Isaacson kind of takes Elon's side on this, where it's like, hey, like, well, maybe he's more neutral, but he definitely says, like, hey, this is success from our perspective because, we said if it was able to clear the pad and blow up, away from the pad, then that was a success, and they did that.
Yeah.
And so I think it is interesting in a narrow sense to say, like, okay, well, they draw a comparison with NASA or Boeing, and they never would have launched under those circumstances. And, I think it's easy to see how launching actually is better, because it's like, it wasn't a complete success, but you learned a tremendous amount. You gained a bunch of additional data that allowed you to improve other parts of the system, which otherwise they were like good enough as it was, and they wouldn't have benefited from spending more time, refining them.
Yeah. And I've seen this before too, where, like, I think of it with software engineering teams. There's certain cultures that are very careful with every software decision they make. They review every design extensively. They have these very senior people sort of weighing in on every design that a junior engineer produces. They write 100% coverage for all of their code. And those teams generally move very slowly, and they break things very infrequently. Mm-hmm. Now, there's other teams that move very quickly, don't check things as often, basically operate in the opposite way. They move way faster, but they also break things a lot more. But I think there's sort of this kind of counterintuitive advantage that the second team has, where even though they're breaking things more, they get better at fixing things. They just get better. They're doers, so they do things more, and they're better at doing. And the problem with that first type of team is they kind of get calcified, where they just get stuck in this pattern of, like, slowly, examining every little problem, and that sort of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so this is why I'm in favor of Elon's way. And it's like, to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. Like, you got to crash a starship every now and again in order to, like, really get one on Mars. And so I'm in favor of this. I'm certainly not in favor of a lot of the stuff Elon does.
You're not co-signing tweeting that one guy is a pedophile. The submarine guy was a pedophile.
Dude, it's funny you mentioned that particular instance, because that was like when I personally started to really dislike Musk.
Hate Musk.
Yeah, because I had bought I have a Tesla car, which is like a hard admission to make. But I owned the car before this happened, and I remember when that happened, or when I can't remember the exact chronology of things, but when I first started learning about Elon's treatment of certain people, and it's like these guys are heroes, and Elon's just like calling them pedophiles for no reason. Ridiculous.
Yeah. No, and I think that also kind of like the actual time when we were reading that coincided with some of the Doge stuff too. So, and maybe I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering that timeline, but like,
you mean Doge, the cryptocurrency?
No, Doge, like the Department of Governmental Efficiency. Like, I think we've been reading this book for a little while now. So
yeah.
I think that we might have been reading that part like early 2025. So it didn't help that he was also like taking a chainsaw to USAID, for example.
Yeah. Ugh.
But I think that's it. And I mean, I guess typically we will do a wrap up episode. So I guess, I don't know. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about for these chapters?
Yeah, I guess the one last thing was there was a quote that I thought was interesting, and this is sort of just a repetition of a lot of our discussion today. But at one point he says something along the lines of, you can't remove the dark threads without unraveling the whole Musk.
Yes.
And so, Musk, that's just part of him. And he is able to achieve these great things, but he just has these dark aspects. And, you can't have one without the other. He contains multitudes, and that's it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like yin and yang.
Yeah.
I feel like, it's easy to just be like, oh, like I just want to pick and choose the good parts. And I think we have kind of taken that stance.
Yeah.
But to a certain extent, I think when you're cutting off those like worst parts, you're also cutting off some of the good parts too.
Exactly.
The circumstances under which he does something risky and he achieves great success. Those successes are not going to be available to us who want to like maybe play it a little more safe. I guess we're never going to be trillionaires.
Sad. But yeah, I think we can stop there. It's a good book. Really, really enjoyed this book. And Elon is definitely a fascinating character. Love him or hate him,
he's a much more nuanced character than I think I appreciated before reading this book.
Agree. Yeah.
All right. Well, I will see you next time, John.
See you next time, Matt.